going to rock and roll.
Already?
Yeah, that's how we do things.
Holy smoke.
When someone brings a notepad, I know it's serious.
Sex is serious.
Sex
is serious.
Sex is serious. Is that your motto?
That is definitely something that I would like to preach about.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
I'm excited. Well, the way we met, just randomly in
that was quite cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
So I said, what do you do? And you told me, and I was like, you need to come on the podcast.
I think I asked first, what do you do?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I like that logo, I must say. The whole idea about the crown on the head of a better man is just really quite exciting, and it fills me with so much hope and there's so much potential, and that's why I think what our topic today would be really, really good match.
What do you think of when you hear the words better man? Like what jumps out at you? What would be a better man than where we find ourselves today? And is there anything wrong with where we find ourselves today?
There is, in society, in culture, there is definitely lots and lots of things wrong. I don't terribly like the idea that we need to better ourselves, because there is kind of a linear achievement idea to it, if you see what I mean. And the first thing that comes to my mind is compassion. It's that kind of idea that you're not broken, you're not bad, you don't need to be better, just become who you truly are, become the powerful, authentic, force in the world, like men used to be. But because of the societal conditioning and the kind of suppression that there is for men today, there is that kind of idea that something is broken and men are somehow not good enough or even bad. And I don't like that. I really find that sometimes makes me quite sad, because I'm also a mother of a boy, and I don't think there's anything wrong in my boy. It's just that, men can be quite lost in today's society, because there isn't really enough support to actually help men to figure out who they truly are and what their power is and how they can use their energy for the betterment of the world, perhaps, if you like, because the world definitely is broken in many ways. There's so many, we're raping the planet. Oh, sorry. Raping the planet, and there is a lot of violence and aggression because of lots of suppression and because of unhappy conditions and environments we find ourselves. That's a bit long answer. Sorry. Am I going on a tangent here?
No, not at all. It's impossible.
I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee here. Thank you.
On my podcast, it's impossible to go off on a tangent, because I'm the king of going off on tangents. What do you worry about most for your son then? Seeing him growing up in the world that we're in today. What are the things that alarm you? What are you concerned about for his future? What would a good future look like for him? What would a not so good future look like?
To be honest, I'm not worrying about him at all. He's a great guy, and he knows who he is, and he knows how to, be powerful himself. He used to play rugby. He's a musician. He studies history. He's confident. He's also in touch with his emotions. He grew up with 3 women, so goodness sake. So there is that kind of balance that I think we all need, whether we are whatever gender, and I think there is we've kind of just been dealt with a weird cards because of the way the society has portrayed what the man should be like, what the woman should be like, and what non-binary practically shouldn't even exist. I'm afraid. So there is that kind of way that if we don't become very clear what is outside of us and what's truly inside of us, if we don't become clear what's the conditioning, we really can be quite lost and confused. And in that sense, I do like the idea. I understand, maybe you can explain what your vision is for the better man.
Yeah.
But I find it's a beautiful, really important message. But if you go a bit deeper, I find that, there is that kind of understanding that you're not right as you are. And I think that's the message we should give to everybody, that you are perfect as you are. But there might be some behaviors habits we need to change. But as a true core, as a person, as a spiritual consciousness, you are perfect as you are.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's something we debate all the time. It's like, well, if we don't strive to become better, what do we do with ourselves? And I understand what you're saying totally. But the reason I set the Better Man up was because I believe that some people often feel so hard done by in life, and they feel like they might have been given a rough start in life, or they might just be stuck or lost. And my theory behind that was that it doesn't matter where you start from, you can always get better at something. You can always take a positive step in some direction.
No, I agree.
So I tried to keep it open for people. It's not just like, well, you have to be in this place to start. I believe anyone can start. And even when you get, we'll say it, good at the game of life, there's always improvements to be made. So I thought, well, no matter what position you start from, you can focus on something positive. Yeah. But I understand what you're saying. I find that hard to get my head around. Like, I don't think I would ever feel perfect or good enough if I didn't work hard.
There's that kind of a Protestant, work ethic that, work before pleasure.
And when I say work hard, sorry, I mean work hard on myself.
Yeah. But it's still that kind of, well, let's discuss,
Sure.
I would argue that it is very much about a worthiness and deservedness issue, that, for you to, need to take control of your improvement or whatever it is, you need to work hard. Like 10,000 hours makes you a master in piano playing, or 10,000 hours, whatever you do.
Sure.
That isn't that the saying?
That is the
saying.
Rule of
That's
thumb,
the definition.
Yeah.
But in Tantra, where I come from, transformation can happen like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So do you believe that so someone can transform like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
I've seen it.
Okay.
It's just, that because it's about consciousness. We have two things. We have the duality. We have the humanity. This body, this world, and that's true, and it's real. Okay, so we're not talking about some woo-woo stuff that, this is just your dream and the real spiritual world is the truth. No, lots of people teach that. But in Tantra, we recognize that this body is real. Our nerves, the whole nervous system of fight, flight, rest and relaxation, it happens. We are in that constant battle of those two different polarities. And this world is real. And of course, we should make the better world. Of course, and that includes us. And what's in us is outside in the world as well. So how we see ourselves, we see the world. And, that's just how it is. But then there is also this spiritual side, this consciousness, which in Tantra says that everything has consciousness. Everything has energy in it. And when we talk about energy, it's not bound down by the laws of physics or anything like that. It can just happen like that. And it's just amazing when there is an awareness. It's like a light bulb comes and says, right, I can actually be a multi-orgasmic man. Right, I can have full pleasure, full body orgasms if I'm, a woman, as well. So it's that kind of where you set your intention and where you understand that it's possible, it can just shift quite quickly.
So how do we understand what's possible?
There's infinite potential.
How do we understand so if we set our intention towards what is possible, if we don't know what's possible, where can we place our intentions?
Everything is possible. Give me an example.
Okay. Well, there's plenty of things that I could say are impossible.
What is impossible?
Oh, that I'm ever going to run faster than Usain Bolt?
Well, you do know that story where I'm not a sports person, but there is this story where somebody said that, nobody can run as fast as, I can't remember how many minutes it was per watt mile race. And then eventually somebody did, just because they had it in their head. They played it over and over in their heads.
Yeah, and then
I can't remember.
It was,
and
Roger,
then after,
it was Roger Bannister filming it more.
oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad
and
you
then
found it.
thousands of
Because,
people did
so
it.
then after that, because that ceiling was broken,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody would say that, 100 years ago that women can become a president or prime minister. Now it's happening everywhere. In Finland, we have 5 women leading the country.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that defeats, like, so for example, when we're talking about achievements in sport, certain genetics need to be present for it to happen. So for example, to be a sprinter, you have to be built a certain way to become fast. Like, you're never going to get an average guy beating a world-class sprinter who's got long legs, natural power, type 1 muscle fibers, all like, do you know what I mean? Some people,
I used to be a sprinter.
Yeah, so it's, there's certain things that can play into your advantage from genetics and the way that you're
But
built.
as a humanity,
I get what you're saying.
Infinite potential.
Yes, I think the gap perhaps is between what we think we're capable of and impossible. I think there's a big gap to play with there. So if you say to me, Alex, what are you capable of? I don't know, because I haven't touched the realms of my
Have you watched the film Lucy?
No, but I know of it.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's that kind of, limit that we just use our brain power. So even that in the physical world, in this human existence, if that is possible to actually increase your brain usage to 10%, to 20%, to 30%, what would that mean? What kind of world would we live in? And but then again, that's something we don't know of, and we've just, as a human race, started to discover that. And if we take that to happiness, even in the U.S. Constitution, there is a saying that every woman's right is to pursue happiness. And what does that mean? I mean, I call my brand Selfishly Happy with Anne Bland, and it is very much about that pursuit. But what I've realized over the years is that it's not coming from outside. It's not something that, I become a multimillionaire, or when I have that big car, or whatever, I have this status as a CEO, or I've hooked up with that bloke over there. I've come to my fame or whatever. So it's really very much about an internal work, and Tantra was the way to get me into that, because it was something that was, I'm very curious mind, so I like learning. But then when I started experiencing things, it was mind blowing. It's we have so much energy, so much power in our cells, in our bodies. We are just like a, I don't know, nuclear power station. If you think about how many, I did actually write down, because I did some research. Let me. I said this is serious.
You've got a lot of notes.
Serious.
I love it.
Yes, 40 million sperm cells in one ejaculation.
Yeah.
Every ejaculation, you could make 40 million babies. Imagine the power of that.
Sure.
Women's clitoris, how many nerve endings are there?
You're asking the wrong person.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the right place then.
Yeah. I guarantee not many guys would know the answer to that.
Well, did you first of all know that there is only, I should have done this. Oh, I blew it now. I should have done it the other way around. I should have said, what is the single one organ that has
Please
been
don't
made
ask me questions.
surely, purely for pleasure?
Well,
and it's not in men's body, it's a clitoris.
Sure.
So clitoris has 10,000 nerve endings.
Wow.
Imagine the power of that. It's like fireworks. It's just amazing. And it's only been designed, whoever designed us, your belief, my belief, it doesn't matter. But however we came to this body, women's clitoris has 10,000 nerve endings. I think men's penis has 4,000.
Sounds about right.
So it's a multitasking organ, isn't it?
I've never heard it called that. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, well, penis is. Yeah, it's multitasking, and women's clitoris has no other meaning except pure pleasure. So I think there is a little bit of a hint there. what this is all about when we're talking about tantra and when we're talking about sex as a practice, as a self-development, love enhancing, peace enhancing, consciousness enhancing, healing work.
So for someone uneducated like myself, you're gonna have to explain to me what tantra is.
Well, tantra was developed in sort of 500 to 1500 AD in Asia. It was going on sort of similar times in China, in India, in Tibet, all sorts of places in there. And it is very much about for ordinary people with families and businesses to become enlightened. So it's a spiritual path, classical tantra.
Sure.
So it is for people who couldn't go into the top of the mountain and just meditate there and become enlightened, because they had responsibilities. They had responsibilities for their families and to bring bread on the table. In the sort of 60s, 70s, it came to West with Osho and other people, and at that point it had more kind of sex. Neo Tantra has more sexual practice, and I suppose one of the most famous people who does Tantra is Sting.
I was going to say he's the only famous person that I know. Yeah. See, when you say Tantra,
Paltrow as well, she's Gwyneth.
Okay.
She's very hot on jade egg, which is a kind of a female side of Tantra.
Didn't she have a vagina smelling perfume or something?
Yeah, that was a joke, apparently. But it's a crystal egg or jade egg that women can use for not Kegel exercises, but for learning their intimate pleasure places and heal themselves.
Yeah, because when you say Tantra, I think most people just think of having sex for hours upon end.
Well, yeah, I just did my notes on that exactly.
Sure.
So, there it is very interesting way of looking at. I mean, people would say, okay, so it's boring. It's just going to be for hours, just massaging somebody, or just kissing for hours, and having eternal foreplay and no end in sight. And in some ways, that is true. But if we look at the conditioning of today, how would you define sex?
Wow.
Or intercourse, even.
Do you know what? I don't even know now.
But don't let me put you off. What
no,
would
I'm
come
not.
first, into your mind if you if somebody asks what's sex, what's intercourse?
For me, it would just be something normal that happens between a man and woman who care for each other. I don't even spend much time thinking about it. It's just something you do as a sign of affection. I think for men especially, it's a way of showing how you feel. When you grab your missus and you show what you think of her, it's good. You can do it without words too. It's action based. So yeah, it's the art of love. That's how I'd consider it.
Art of
love.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that.
You're putting me on the spot here.
Can I
never
just
felt
write that
so warm and red in my life.
I know. It's a nice glow. Oh, but do you know what? That's the whole thing. Sex gives you energy and glow, and it softens you up. It makes you feel more alive. It feels like you are, you bring goodness to the world. And I would like to dismantle all these kind of, walls that's been put around what sex can be and what it's not, and how it should feel and look like, and as you say, it's art of love.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it's not always used in that way, is it? It's, it's not. It's changed, I think. I mean, what I heard the other day was men are having less sex than ever right now, which means women are having less sex than ever too, right? So I don't know why that's occurring these days, especially they say young men. I don't know whether this is the amount of pornography they're consuming or the amount of interaction that they can have now through computer games and just other things to do. I don't know. Or there's an argument that women are becoming, they want the best men out there and they're not willing to settle for anything less.
Yeah, I mean, there is you're absolutely right in all of those, because, let's say women, in my circles, I can see that women are more interested in understanding pleasure and what sex can be in its potentiality. and they are up-leveling themselves. They're becoming the queens of their queendoms. And, and that's why I got so excited when I saw the crown on the Better Man logo. And I thought, yes, these guys are making, kings, for these queens, because you really want somebody to match you in that state where you are feeling that anything is possible. Let's just make the world a better place, even through our lovemaking.
Yeah. Well, I'd say 90% of the men that I work with want to be better partners. It's one of the main reasons they get to work on themselves. They want to give more back. They want to be a better husband, a better boyfriend, a better lover, a better father, just a better all-round man. And they know the contribution they will make to other people's lives when they do that. It's not a selfish act. It's not just for our own good. It's almost above the self. It's saying that if we get to work on our own game, we can give something back to the people around us and we can make their life better. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for doing this. I want to celebrate you because I think this is a very, very important message to men out there, but also giving hope for everybody in this world, because there is so much dominance and patriarchy based cultural conditioning, which is not gender based. It's just everybody, men and women, and everybody non-binary as well, suffer from that, where there is a particular toxic way how we should be based on our genders or what's possible for us, and it's a very sad state of affairs at the moment. Yeah,
well, thank you for saying that. I think sometimes because I called it the Better Man, you can instantly hear that and think it's some macho group about men and power, and it's the exact fucking opposite. It's we want to be better for the people that we love, men and women, So that's what we go to work on. And I think men's groups, some quite rightly get a bit of a bad rep, but some are really good with good intentions, and that's what we've got. I'm only interested in working with guys that have got some good intentions to do good. And none of the guys I work with are just after the growing of a business. It's not enough for them. They want to grow on an individual level. So that really appeals to me, because that's where I started my journey. It was like I knew that I could be a better person, Yeah. And I mean kinder. Yeah. That's the main thing. I knew I could be kinder. Yeah. So I was like, I want to get to work on that. Yeah. Because being kind gets you a long way in life.
And I think similarly, selfishly happy idea, people said, no, you can't say that because that's egoistic, that's narcissistic. But if we don't work on ourselves first, we can burn out, we can become really dissociated, we can be really suppressed and depressed and angry, bitter people. And if we don't work on ourselves, we have nothing to give to others.
No, I agree.
And that's why I felt that I need to, I've always been a bit of a, world healer. I need to change the world for better. And then I burn out myself and realize that, hang on, I can only change myself. I can't change anybody else. I can't change the world, but I can change myself.
Sure.
And in that sense, it resonates with the Better Man, that I want to become... I kind of use perhaps different words, but I think the idea is exactly the same. It's like becoming who I really am.
1000%. That's the mission, yeah. And I think the world does become better as you see things differently. So if you can get a clear view on things, if you can change your perspective, then by definition, the world does change. So we don't need to change the world in order for the world to change. So I just need to change my perspective on it. So if I have a healthier perspective on people too, then my world changes.
Yeah, that's called cognitive reframing.
Sure, but it's so true, right? If I live inside of, and I think this whole, people say you can't, call your brand selfishly happy, it's egotistical. That's bullshit, because if you've ever,
I agree.
It's because if you've ever been depressed, you feel utterly useless to the people around you. Yeah. So it only makes sense to me to go me first, then the people closest to me, then my community.
Yeah, and the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I've done it wrong way around as an ex-politician, a Green politician. I kind of went that way, and I was looking at businesses that are more socially, environmentally, or oriented, and obviously my family, but never myself. I never allowed myself what I wanted. I didn't even know what I wanted. What was good for me. And for years I went like this. And you can push yourself with adrenaline. And I come from Finland. And the other day I was talking to somebody who lives in Finland but is not Finnish. And she said, it feels sometimes that Finnish women are like men. You know, they're achieving, they're doing everything. They're so amazing. They're just succeeding in everything. And I just got tired just listening to her. And I thought, yeah, kind of been there, done that, got the T-shirt. And, having been in this country and had my 2 kids here, I loved it that I was just able to be at home with them and just concentrate on them, focus, being present with them, didn't need to go back to work. Not because I had to in Finland, but in Finland you would just be, because there's public nursery that's practically free and they are highly educated nursery carers. So you feel good about leaving them there. But I wanted to be with my kids and I knew it was going to be just a few years. It's not going to be for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something still. So it was that kind of choosing the right moment to do the things that are good for you. And then I started to realize that, I still want to do something for the world. And now I'm doing something for myself and to the world. So it's that kind of ebb and flow where you have to kind of find when is the right moment to do what's good for you and for the others. And, it's not kind of perfect science, it just life happens sometimes.
Yeah, and that's really interesting what you've said. You had that feeling like you wanted to be at home. I think women have that sometimes. They have that innate feeling of like, I want to be at home, I want to bring up my children, I want to nurture them, I want to take care of them. I think sometimes men get a little bit lost because they probably don't have that natural desire to stay at home and nurture the children.
Well, in Finland, Sweden, Nordic countries, men actually are paid to stay at home, and women go home. Women don't stay home; they go to work.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of where society can give you equal footing, and you can't anymore say, but I can't afford to stay home because my salary is bigger. So therefore, it must be my partner who's staying with the kids. And she feels, well, actually, I would like to, have a career as well. So it's that kind of opportunity that the society needs to enable. And in this country, don't have that opportunity. And it's interesting.
It's very interesting. I was speaking with Lydia before about, I don't think women rely on men as much anymore. So I think they can financially get by themselves. So I think the opportunities that are available today are so much greater than they were 100 years ago. So the need and necessity for men, or the story behind that, is starting to change, and more men are starting to feel like
we need men.
Oh fuck! I agree.
Sake.
I'm just saying where
I
think.
just so kind of I don't believe in this kind of Amazonian female world where we freeze our eggs or sperm and we can reproduce in the world without men. There is that kind of feminist strand as well, and I just find that would be so boring. That would be so boring.
Yeah. And
we need cooperation, yes, and we need also kind of polar opposites. Mm-hmm. We need that magnetism. We need that, where a man can feel, as much as in his masculine or in his feminine as he wants, and same with women. And where we kind of have come from one side of the pendulum where women have been oppressed and suppressed, and you can't have a bank account in the 60s if you didn't have a husband to open it for you. And you were just earning a little bit of pin money so that you didn't have to ask, I need some period pads, could I please have some money? So you didn't have those awkward conversations to then come into where, women run the country, have little babies and party like our Prime Minister back in Finland, amazing woman. But, how long can you take that? There needs to kind of, we need to come to the center where we can all be who we truly are. And still appreciate, what is that primitive masculinity? What is that, power of, go and hunt a mammoth and feed the tribe? What is the reproductive fucking instinct? That men are so scared nowadays that they hurt their women and they can't truly go into that state. Or, what is the women's witchiness, the wild woman in bedroom, that kind of multi-orgasmic, essence and energy being that, can create worlds. And, both of those sides are suppressed. They're not okay in these societies of ours. And, there is that kind of liberation that needs to happen because, when you can do that with love and consciousness, you can really come together as a couple and really find that balance of the yin and yang, if you like. if feminine and masculine doesn't kind of feel right to in your vocabulary. So it is about that energy and flow of the yin and the consciousness and action of the yang.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And how does that come together to actually produce something amazing?
So what is a masculine man nowadays? How does a man show his masculinity? What would you define as a masculine man?
Well, as we kind of alluded to, I believe that we regardless of our genders, we have both energies. And we're talking about energies. We're not talking about, you need to have a chiseled jaw and, a six-pack and whatever. It's not about that. It's more about the energy. And the masculine energy is more like being the consciousness that helps the feminine energy to be more creative, more free-flowing, and just have that amazing pleasure capacity. And, hold her there, hold space, really. If you can hold space for a woman who's just being emotionally irrational, that is the space where peace happens. That's where the love happens, is when you don't get triggered and you can hold somebody and you're the consciousness, you're the awareness that everything is okay. You can express and rage as much as you want. I'm here for you and I love you. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. It sounds like you're saying the masculine trait there is the strength to hold.
Yes.
And the feminine trait, you sound, is the one that's irrational and emotional.
But what I think no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there is energy for anything. There is energy and flow for everything. And there's lots of kind of spiritual teachings nowadays where people say that feminine energy is to surrender. Yes, true. But it's not the whole story. It's also a very destructive force. It's a very, if just think about a lioness, and somebody's, going to hurt her cubs, she will kill you.
Sure.
So, so the feminine energy is not something powerless and meek and just surrendering. There is so much power in that. And, ultimately, there is that balance of how do we within ourselves balance both masculine and feminine energy, yin and yang, but also in a relationship, and it's always, regardless of genders, same-sex partnerships, non-gender biased and so on, there is always those energies where the other one is more perhaps dynamic and action-oriented, the other one is more kind of on the perhaps receiving end, but also a feminine can provide love back. Because women, if we take this, for instance, in just male and female body, the polar magnets, opposite magnets that we have in energetically, I'm speaking now, is that, let's say, have you ever experienced in a relationship that a woman comes to you and starts asking you, okay, let's talk about emotions. Do you love me? What's going on with you? Why did you say that? Let's discuss. Can you, what happened yesterday? Let's, have an argument or whatever.
That's happened, yeah.
How does that make you feel? Would you start talking? Just on an instinctual level.
Yeah, I'd start talking.
You would start talking.
Yeah, dependent on my emotional state at the time.
Well, what would that emotional state?
Well, it depends how it's like. If you framed it in just the way you have, like, let's talk about this, then that's
no. It's more like kind of coming quite straight at you, saying, "What did you mean by that? I think you don't love me."
Yeah, I think if I felt like I was being attacked like that, my natural instinct would be to go back, to attack back.
Would it?
My natural instinct, yeah. My rational part would probably say, slow down and listen to what's being. I think that would be the battle going on inside of me.
Yeah.
If I've attacked, defend, but I think there's a higher self that can understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. You're very aware. I can feel.
Well, I am, but I don't always win that battle.
Yeah.
Sometimes I notice it.
Internal battle.
Yes.
I mean.
Sometimes I notice it when it's too late, and I look back and go, my partner only wanted this, and I misread it, and boom, and then we clash. So it's a skill, and it's practice, and it's awareness. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. So in a way, it's, you know, I suppose I did role play it a bit attack way, but I mean, it's just that kind of way where generally female heart space, you know, here, which is kind of emotional space as well, is very much yang energy. So it's quite direct. So it could kind of manifest that when you come home and they've been home with the kids all day and they haven't spoken to anybody adult for 12 hours and, you know, tell me about your day, and the least thing you want is actually to do that. And, you know, you've been working all day in an office perhaps, and you want to just relax and sit down and, you know, get your, you know, work clothes off, and you might not have the energy and the capacity to then go through all the day that she's had and what emotions and who said what and who called what and what the child did. So there is that kind of way where men's hearts can be more guarded. So there is more like yin energy where they need to be having that consciousness, having that space where they can feel safe. Okay, I can talk now. You know, there was quite wonderful example. Last Monday I was holding a women's tantra circle, and one of the ladies said that, yes, you know, my partner said the other day when I was really emotional, and I wanted to discuss something, and he just said, no, can't do that. Thursday at 7 p.m. I can have this discussion. And I was going, what? I'm angry now. Or I don't know if it was anger, but I just wanted to talk now. And then she said, all right. And so come Thursday, 7 p.m., he sits down and said, now I can have that discussion. Oh, right. Okay. Oh, great. Oh, okay. So you can see there was the consciousness at play and kind of, yeah, I don't have this is not the right time.
Well, I think men want to solve problems.
Yes, but there needs to be the right space.
Yeah, but I think sometimes in a relationship, one of you just wants to spill and get things off your chest, whereas I think men often want to solve that problem when in fact you might just want to be listened to.
Yeah. There is a beautiful Hindu goddess story and God story. They have all these many deities, don't they? I'm not very good at them, but I love this story where just going back to the feminine being also destructive power. So there is a Kali energy goddess in India, and she's really fearsome, and she slays demons and cuts their heads off and carries them on her waist. And there were some bad demons in the world, and all the other gods and goddesses asked her to come and kill them because she was the only one who could kill them. But then she got so enraged with that she was starting to destroy everything. She was just destroying the whole world. And the other deities were, oh my goodness, we need to get Shiva here, her husband, you know, her divine consort, to come here and console her because he loves her 100%. And she will calm down when he's there. So what happens, Shiva comes and he lays down on her feet when she's just destroying everything and lies down in front of her feet. And she realizes that, oh, there's my lover. There's the love of my life, and he's just radiating this love, and she completely forgets to be angry anymore and destroying the world. And I think that's as a woman, I can be quite temperamental. I don't throw plates anymore, she says, but there is that kind of if you can hold, you know, even if it's just a deep grief, you can hold somebody and say it's okay. Just as you said, just let go. You know, whatever emotion there is. You said it could be a release, so 100% agree. So this kind of metaphorical story is quite beautiful to remember that, yes, if somebody can just hold me when I rage or when I feel, you know, so sad that I can't live anymore, and somebody just is there, very calm and solid and saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's it.
Yeah.
The world gets healed.
Sure. I think, you know, in my previous relationships, I've felt good to do that, to be the person that my partner can come to and cry and moan and let things out. And I think it's the kind of thing sometimes when it's in front of you, you might roll your eyes and think, oh, but when you don't have that energy in your life, you kind of miss that feminine energy. You want that around you. You know, it's something that you miss something you complain about when you have it. But when you don't, you miss it.
Yeah, it's that magnetic opposite
Definitely.
again. And if I take, can I take it down to the below the belt area now?
Of course.
So that's the
But
opposite.
you've already done that today, so we can go there. You can say whatever the fuck you want now. After the clit story, you can say what you want.
So basically, that's the opposite, polar energies. So men's penis is very much about yang. It knows exactly how to do a deep dive right there.
Sure.
And in a similar way, that can be a bit too much for the yin pussy part of the female body. And I say pussy deliberately because unfortunately we don't have one word that
Everyone understands pussy. Yeah.
Because we can't say vulva and the vagina because that's a bit long-winded. Pussy is the whole thing. And I come from Finland. To me, there's no negative connotation.
Okay, yeah.
It just feels like
People
a little kitten.
Yeah, people will be grimacing at that word.
Will they?
Yeah. Some people are a bit snobbish about that.
Maybe we need to reclaim it. There's a lovely book by Mama Gina called Pussy.
Oh, cool.
And I would recommend that to anybody
What's
who's
it about?
listening. It's about pussy and reclaiming that word and actually having that empowerment, having that wild woman in bedroom, having that witchiness, having that multi-orgasmic capacity that women have. And same way as men as warriors or having harems, to shed their 40 million sperms, women need to reclaim their authentic power as a multi-orgasmic creature.
Sure. And that warrior archetype that you've just spoken about, I think that's what's missing a lot of men now.
It is.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
It's hard to be a warrior when you're playing the computer all night. It's hard to get into that warrior state. It's my favourite place to be. And again, that can be damaging too when you go too much all in on the warrior and all you want to do is fight and all you want to do is conquer.
How did your mountain climbing go?
Amazing. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the pain.
Yeah.
Loved it. Did it on Friday with 25 kilos on my back. It was painful, but I felt I needed it. There's something about, again, I learnt a lesson the other day. There's something to be said for climbing heights. It does feel like you're conquering something within you and on the mountain.
But that's exactly that primitive force I was saying.
Yeah.
From the cave times when you had to provide and kill something, conquer something. Make sure that your family, your tribe is safe and fed.
Yeah, I can't explain it really.
No,
I can't
and
articulate
it's that primitive force that's suppressed. Yeah. And on the other hand, if you can really tap into that, and like in Tantra, there are lots of practices that help men to really tap into that, and be able to then be so focused and conscious about, if there is a threat for your loved ones, you would know exactly what to do. It's like martial arts, or you bring that consciousness. And like when we moved back to England, my son went and started playing rugby, and I'd just been introduced to rugby, and I was going, for goodness sake, this is silly. But then I was invited to go to Northampton Saints in Franklin's Gardens, and into the VIP box. And after a couple of glasses of wine, I got, oh my goodness, this is actually quite exciting game. And I was going, these young men crawling in the mud over there. And, but what I didn't understand, the goal was here, goal was there. And they were just doing sideways until I was explained the rules.
Sure.
And what I loved about that, it's like a metaphor for male life. It's like you have the urge to do something. You need to get to that goal, however so that your team can win. There is that competition, that innate conquering, as you said, feel, but you're doing it for the team. It's not a single man sport. You're doing it for others. It's a whole thing. Everybody in that team has a different role. They're all different shape and sizes. I love that. It's not like everybody needs to be particular look like particular way, but because of their innate physical bodies, they have different tasks. So it's kind of a betterment for the whole group. And then what's really cool is that they have the coach and the referee. And however much you're in your testosterone and you really want to kill the opponent that's in the scrum against you, you can't do that. You have rules. So you need to bring that consciousness. You don't go back to the referee and start, giving lip service. You respect them. There is that respect, which is your higher consciousness in a one person's body. So I just love that as a metaphor, and I really, really enjoy. And I realized, having been a pacifist all my life, and still am, I never allowed even water pistols at home. But when my son was just like, 1-2 year old, and we went to the woods, every single stick became a sword or a gun. And I just, where the hell did you learn that?
Yeah.
You watch Balamori, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Where did you learn? You can't even speak, and it's becoming a gun or a sword.
He didn't learn
so there is something, isn't there? There must be.
1000%. Yeah. Most boys do that. Like you say, without being taught, they just make weapons out of things, and they bash things, and they go and hunt, and they shoot, and they do things that boys do. And it's strange even now, 38, the guy that I climbed with on Friday, we climbed the mountain together with the three of us. We got down. What was the first thing we did? We went and got food after. Big feast. So, conquer, achieve the mission, go and get food, and then he went home to his woman. It was like the perfect day. You conquer, you get the feast,
and then you get
and I'm like, and it's like, fucking hell, life is so basic. Seriously, I've never been happier than when I'm in the struggle of conquering something. The mission, I love it. I feel like I don't have to worry or think about it. It feels the most natural thing ever, even though it's completely insane. I don't have to do that. Why am I carrying this weight up and down this mountain? But it feels the most natural thing.
You're human in a man's body, and that's what you can't. It's that kind of generation after generation of how you've been built, your DNA. And it's natural and it's suppressed.
Yes.
So things like what you're doing, and like rugby or whatever, however, and I really kick myself in a way that I didn't allow my son to express that, and now I can see that there needs to be a safe release for that testosterone. There needs to be a safe way to really feel that I'm a man. I can conquer, and I can fight, I can do this, because we don't need wars. We don't need wars to do that, and that's why so many people go and volunteer, in Ukraine or wherever. And it's really sad, because it's always the women and the children who suffer the most.
Sure. Yeah, we need something to fight for, that's for sure. So this is making sense now. It's like men don't seem to have a way of expressing themselves. Or do you think they just don't choose to anymore? Because you could argue, well, Alex, you found a way. There's martial arts, there's climbing, there's physical sports.
Yeah, but how many people really do that?
Not many. Why?
I mean, it's pushy. It's forceful sometimes. It's kind of numbing yourself. And the whole point about, and even with, as you said earlier, that young men don't have sex anymore. And I think that's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I did read about Japanese kids, young people, they don't have sex anymore.
Well, their population's declining, isn't it? Because people always talk about overpopulation. Apparently, it's the opposite way around now. It's like, actually, we need to make sure we populate the earth, because in places
the
like
Finnish
Japan,
Prime Minister once said that, you need to, when there was depression, I think in the early 90s, he said, you need to take a holiday and have some sex, please. And I was kind of, what the hell?
That's amazing.
I know, we live in a very liberal country, where you go to sauna with your family and whatever. But
so do you think the act of sex has just been replaced then by things that deliver some form of pleasure?
Yes, it's been replaced, but it's also numb. It's been numbed, because you're suppressing your primitive urges. You're suppressing your desire of being loved and cherished and worshipped and being devoted to as a king or queen or god or goddess. And it's that kind of spiritual side.
Sure.
I think we all yearn to have a really fulfilling, completing, relaxing, healing experience through sex.
Okay. By the way, I agree with everything you're saying here. I can see how that would lead to a healthier, happier, more fulfilled life. Instantly, my cynical part of me goes straight towards average Joe, let's say, maybe in a job that's probably not that fulfilling or satisfying. The computer's there, the beer's there at the weekend. There really isn't a mission or a purpose in life. It's to survive, it's to pay the bills. How does a guy like that transform himself into his higher self, or how does he start locating the masculine traits that will make his life better?
Depends what he desires. Without a desire.
But if these desires are being crushed,
I would not be able to work with him.
No, I get it. But what I'm wondering, whether these desires are there, and this is why people are unhappy and kill themselves, because those desires aren't being paid attention to. So instead, what we're doing is suppressing them with sedation. So computer games, social media. It doesn't mean those things have gone away. Porn. Doesn't mean those things have gone away. So it's like, I'm wondering whether that's the root of a lot of issues for men. It's like they don't have ways to suppress that, but they have ways to cover it up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So
it's more like kind of replacing something with which is more exciting, which gives you kind of a short-lived excitement.
Yes.
And kind of it's like sensational. It's sensational instead of being sensitive and actually tuning into your body and what your body needs. You kind of, well, I'm actually drinking coffee now, but normally I would have, some herbal teas or green tea. But it's that kind of where you go external for something that you can find from yourself. And because we've been taught, marketing people are really, they're
For
very
sure.
clever.
Yeah.
The way they've kind of, you can't have this, you need to look like this, you need to, it's like, I've always thought that, there is when they excavate, our generation, in the future, they find, dicks, very pert, having an erection, and tits that are also very pert. And, it's like, yes, I have a hard on, and you've got perky tits, but I have no recollection what the hell for. I can't remember it. It's like a joke that we do something that is, Viagra sellers, silicone breast implants, and then we get Alzheimer's. That's a very sad story of humanity at the moment, when actually what we need is to go inwards and find what's pleasurable to us. What do we really, truly desire? And then find a way of getting that. What is the roadmap? And sorry, I stopped there.
Yeah, society's not going that way though.
No,
It's going the
but
opposite.
you and me are the society. We can change that.
Well, I think we can change it for a small amount of people, sure. But if more people changed society for a small percent of people, we'd be better off. Yeah, everything you're saying, like I say, I'm agreeing. It's just I'm thinking, well, the marketers out there, the government, they don't want us to head that way that you're spoken about. No, for sure.
And more you spend on your Facebook and wherever you listen in your bubble, you're just reaffirming what your beliefs are.
Yes.
Because they're all the same, like same-minded people. So I think it's very important to open up your horizons, go out and go beyond your comfort zone. Have that courage. It's always the first step that's the most scariest and most difficult. It's just, start getting curious, start seeing what's possible. But in terms of your own body, as I said earlier, it's a powerhouse. You can really, with the orgasms people have, you can light whole cities, there's no doubt about that. But it kind of stays here. It's very, very in the genital area. So it's very kind of explosive and superficial. It can feel, just that it stays there. There's no energy in it. But when you can learn to use holistic tantric sex tools, where you're using your breath, your movement, your energy, how can you circulate your energy? How can you use your sound? Things like that. They're all inside you. It's just learning what is your sexy soundtrack. What's your pleasure pump. What's your bliss bridge. Bridge to bliss. It's just those kind of. It's just about kind of re-educating ourselves.
Sure.
Because we haven't had proper education. It's only about sex ed is all about STIs and don't get anybody pregnant.
Yeah.
They actually don't even know female anatomy of pleasure. So how can you learn if you don't, as a woman, as a girl, know what's good for you, and you've been kind of taught it's sinful or dirty, or you're being slutty, and then you kind of expect the guy to come along and know it all. So where does the guy get all the information? You tell me.
Well, I know a lot.
Locker rooms and porn.
Porn.
Yeah.
Pornography.
Yeah.
They went to do a study on guys who hadn't been watching porn for a long period of time, so they could see the difference between brains. They couldn't find enough men to take part in this study.
I know. I've heard about that.
Seriously, they could not find men who did not watch porn.
There's nothing wrong with porn, but if that's 100% coming external to you as a stimulation, so more stimulation externally and more excitement externally, less satisfying, I bet your orgasms are. You get hooked up on them. Your neuronal pathways in your body, in your nervous system, you're hardwiring them to get wanked off, excuse me, but that's the word, in a particular way. And nothing else feels nice and good anymore. But the good thing is that you can always rewire your nervous system. You learn to have pleasure in different ways, and actually ecstasy and bliss. You can. What is actually sex to you? I said that earlier, but let's say what, in terms of male experience, the excitement turning on, and then the climax and relaxation. Is that true?
Alongside a deep form of connection.
Yeah, of course, and the love. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a statement for me too. It's an act. It's a way that I can express myself. So I might not be able to articulate something I can show in the act of sex. Yeah.
Yeah. So the process goes, that there is that turn on, then there is the climax, and then there's a relaxation. You turn your back and start snoring.
You can sleep.
Many women tell me I would not know.
I can tell you it's true. You always sleep much better after sex.
But that's the thing. It's something that is now being kind of brainwashed to all of us to think that that's how sex should be, and it is. And also women are learning that that's how it is. It's like half of the women fake orgasms. How do you know that your woman is not faking? You think you know? We're very good at faking. We're extremely good because we watch porn. You watch what porn? So we know exactly what to say and do. It's that kind of toxicity that comes from outside, and porn is a multi-billion trillion industry. There's big money there, and it's acting. It's not true. What does a true orgasm look like? There is a wonderful ladies there, OMG yes, go and find that shows you all the researched ways that women self-pleasure, and it's explicit. It's not very expensive, but it's absolutely beautiful. And it's like co-created space where women have been able to show how they actually find pleasure in themselves. And it's just education that we should have had. We might know now that, okay, now we know about clitoris. We know a little bit about G-spot and female ejaculation, which is not urine. We learn a little bit about cervical orgasms, valley orgasms, the way women can go on for 10 minutes having an orgasm, or even hours, just peaking and valleying in that orgasmic pleasure. And it's the way that we haven't been told that a man's and his penis's resting home and place is actually inside a vagina, because it's all about that kind of turn on, climax, sleep. And it's not like, no, actually you need to stay inside that vagina for like half a day and you can still give her multiple orgasms.
People are going to be listening to this going, I haven't got half a day.
Well, it's up to you. In Finland we actually have when we say intercourse, you can have that clinical word, but also when we say in kind of colloquialism, it's hobby sex. Shall we have some hobby sex? So I think, that's a brilliant idea. Why can't I have my most wonderful hobby today, which is sex? I mean, think about that. I just realized a couple of weeks ago that in Finnish we actually say, we did some hobby sex last night.
I think, going back to the porn thing, I think porn is damaging and it is harmful. I don't think there's an if or a but around that. I think statistics back it up. I think a lot of guys spend way too much time watching porn, and it is a replacement for a lot of men for having sex. Definitely, I know guys who've spoken to me. They said it's easier to have sex. It's easier to watch porn than it is to have sex. It's less effort.
It's easy, less effort. Yeah.
It's the set in their head. It's the same reward. It's the same feeling.
It's not the same reward.
No, I know.
I would disagree with that.
But they still get that climax. They still get that feeling, that short-term. And I know there's not the love and the connection, but a lot of the guys don't always search for that, or they don't feel like they need it. It's so easy. It's there. It's available. And like I say, it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. So people are watching porn. It's the most searched for thing on the internet. People don't go on the internet for much else. Not if you're a guy. Or if you do, you get distracted by porn.
Lots of women do that as well because they think that that's the way. And the other day, one of my clients said that she was with a female group and they were drinking, just being in a bar somewhere. And then they started sharing. And one of them said that, oh my goodness, and I won't go into details, but said that I need to be drunk if he asks me to do that because it's so bloody painful and I can't do it. And, and that woman... My client, she just basically said that she just had to leave that space. She was so sick,
right?
And said, why would she allow, and why would anybody ask? But it's because it's been shown in porn.
Yeah. But what you got to remember is a lot of guys, young lads, porn will be their education.
Yeah.
It will be. That's how they'll learn. That's where the curiosity that we speak of, they'll get the answers in the pornography. So they might have 5-6 years of watching pornography before they have sex.
Yeah, and that's the way they rewire that. They basically have their nervous system feels that that's the only way to do it.
Yes.
And if you think about in the olden days, when I was young, it would have been like you might have had, I don't know, some magazines that boys might have found under their dad's mattress or whatever, or if they were old enough to buy. But you started learning that. Okay, so I had a bit of a wet night, what's happening, and you start experimenting, you start learning, oh, this feels quite nice, oh, and actually if I touch my balls like this, that's actually quite delicious, or or if I want to prolong my masturbation, I press my perineum and I don't come that quickly. So there are things that you kind of learn by experimenting and just feeling. And the same is with women. I don't know if you've seen the Sex Education, the series.
I haven't.
With it's
again,
brilliant.
I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I watched it on my own. Then I made my kids to watch it. Then
Okay.
I've made everybody else to watch it.
Yeah.
It's just hilarious. And my son, actually, bless him. Sorry, I'm talking about you again. Not that he would listen to this, but he said, if you think you're going to be a Gillian Anderson and there's going to be phallus symbols in the house or vulva cushions, I'm going to move out of the house. And I said, oh, thank you. I'll keep that in mind when I want to get rid of you.
Well, if Gillian Anderson's in it, then I will watch it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I like her.
It's absolutely brilliant. And why I raised this up is because there is one teenager that a girl who's it's quite explicit, sexually, that series. It's great. It's not how I would perhaps teach any teenager what sex is about, but it's good fun to see, and it kind of covers all the corners and all the kind of eventualities within the series, except tantra. But there's one girl who's had a boyfriend and just always just faking it, and then she kind of, the idea is that there is this young man, Gillian Anderson's son, and then his friend, and they are doing sex clinic for the teenagers because they exactly don't know where to find information, and because he's all the time heard from his parents, they're sex therapists. So he's kind of, finding all of a sudden that he actually knows much more than the average Joe, and they do this sex clinic, and this girl says, I can't do that anymore, and he said, well, what do you like? What do you mean, what do I like? Of course, I like him to come on my breasts. I said, do you really? Well, doesn't everybody? I thought everybody likes that. I'm not sure about my face. I don't know, I'm just kidding. But he says, no, you need to go home and find what you like. And she starts masturbating. And it's just hilarious scene where she can't stop it because she all of a sudden realized that I've never had an orgasm. And she found, through her own experimentation, what she feels is good and pleasurable to her. And it changed her. I mean, it's that kind of thing that if we go into ourselves and don't take it from outside, that sensational, that excitement and all that, but actually more into our senses, go into your own, how do I feel? How do I like touching myself? Whether you're a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. Just feel what really it feels good to you. How do you want your breasts to be touched? Learn first and then ask the man or the woman, how do you want your breasts to be touched? And do you actually want to learn valley orgasms and not just very kind of exciting clitoral orgasms, and actually something that is more deep down, inside you, and actually can be so blissful and just bring the energy to your heart, and you feel that connection within the hearts, and then even in your consciousness, when your consciousness come together. You can do that on your own, you can do that together. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And we have so many fears and anxieties that we just don't open our minds and our hearts to see what's possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a friend who he set up a charity called Men Fight For Us, and he was talking about the amount of trafficking involved in pornography as well, which is another reason why it's probably not the most decent thing to watch on the internet. There's a lot behind it: drugs, prostitution, trafficking. So I think for all those reasons, but
revenge porn.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it stops you from doing the exploring work on yourself. I think that's the thing as well. I'm gonna have to put an explicit content on this warning one, aren't I?
Yeah. Which is sad, because if you think about it, teenagers, they will have sex earlier and earlier, once they do.
I think so.
And I don't have any stats. I don't have that stats, but what's really, on a woman's point of view, I think what's really sad is that you can't buy sex toys until you're 18, but you can have a penis inside you years before that, legally.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
So you can't even learn. And I'm not a great fan of vibrators, because it can be a little bit like porn. It can desensitize you. So you can't, have an orgasm in any other way. And I'm kind of a bit of a organic person in that sense, that I'd like, two people to find pleasure together rather than needing lots of external or physical stimulation.
Okay. Let me ask you where this whole journey started for you, because we haven't even gone there yet. So in obviously some of the information that we exchanged, you said everything started with this cycling accident that you went through.
No, that was later.
Okay, so talk to me about how you even got into
sex.
Well, no. No, let's not go there. I'm talking about the relationship coach, the tantric coach. How did you get there from?
Well, I divorced some 8 years ago, I think now. It's like a different lifetime, but it was, in the end, like many marriages, it was sexless marriage, and it was something that I thought, that's it now. I'm old, and then all of a sudden I came across with a jade egg, which I briefly mentioned earlier, which is like a pleasure practice for women, and I started to find my sexuality again, and I thought, blimey. I mean, I've always been quite interested in sex, and I think it might come from upbringing. There were books in the bookshelf, 1,000 things, or 101 things that you didn't ever dare to ask about sex, kind of thing, or Fanny Hill, the prostitute story. I mean, for goodness sake, Mum, Dad, but. And it's more openly talked about in Finland, and nakedness is quite normal, so it's not such a taboo. But yeah, so I wanted to feel more pleasurable, and I wanted to feel more energetic, because I was having the burnout at the same time, and then the cycling accident was 4 years ago, and that kind of brought on lots of childhood trauma I didn't know I had. So I had PTSD, and I've kind of been healing from that. And the COVID was just such a trauma for me, and all my coaching was put on hold. But I'm getting back into it now, and I really feel that there is that journey from within me, from within you, then to other, the intimate relationship, and then to the community, and then to the world. And I think that would be something I'd really want to take on and start, feeling into how can we do that? How can we give people hope and inspiration? How can we bring knowledge and acceptance and liberation? How can we bring, the understanding that you're okay? You're not broken. Whatever has happened to you, you're not broken in any way. You are beautiful and whole. And I want to have that space holding, and to really allow people to be seen who they truly are, and to be heard, and heal that humanity within them, within us all, and then taking that self-expression, that self-mastery into the world, where you can start helping other people. And more we do that. I mean, you said earlier that, the better man is just a little, just a few blokes, that you work with. I don't think so. We wouldn't be talking here if you hadn't had the if we didn't have that serendipitous moment where I'm kicking the camera again, and having that we need to talk. This is important. We really need to talk about this. People need to hear about how sex can be a spiritual path. How can it be a self-development path? How can it bring happiness and peace on earth?
Yeah. And I know sex is very important, but it's uncomfortable to talk about for some. So even on this podcast today, it's probably been one of the most uncomfortable ones.
Is it?
Yeah, for sure, man. We're
I'm
talking
sorry.
about. No, don't be sorry. It's like I welcome uncomfortable conversations. I think this is where people are afraid to go. So I'm kind of glad we're having this conversation because it's important to men and it's important to women, and to pretend that it's not, it's bullshit.
Yeah, and just going back to it is, and I would encourage again that it is a conversation we need to be having. We need to be having it everywhere, not just when we're drunk or and especially the experience shouldn't be like that.
Because it's an amazing
I was drunk,
experience.
when I had it first time, and it was because I thought, I'm very late into this, and I regret that. I don't want, teenagers to have that experience that you need to be drugged or drunk to have that.
Because when you get it right and you experience it, it's very, very special.
Yeah.
When you're having sex with someone that you love and there is that connection and time slows down and things feel good, don't they? And it feels the most natural thing to do.
Yeah, and it is
great.
natural. It's the religion, it's the media and the porn that's basically fucked up our brains.
Yeah, porn was the most damaging thing for me as a youngster.
Yeah.
Because I think when I was maybe 11, I think the internet was there. So it was fucking happy days. It was everywhere. It was people were watching it, our generation. I'm 38, so it was in that era that was first discovered. And shit, you try and stop watching it then after 20 years and you realise how addicted you are, when you try and give it up. So I haven't watched
How did you do that then?
My mentor suggested that I might want to give up pornography because he thought it would be good for me. So this is a guy called Jeff Thompson. So he's a very spiritual man. And some of the issues that were showing up in my relationship, he said that I was feeding the energies that I was trying to crush by watching pornography. And it was not very nice pornography, If you start watching pornography at 11, what turned you on when you were 11 no longer turns you on when you're 20.
Exactly.
So what do you watch? You watch harder stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're 20, 1 year later, that no longer turns you on. And it's a dark place, the internet. You can end up watching all sorts of crazy shit just to get the same spike of dopamine and turn you on. So you end up watching things that you actually you don't like anymore. It's wrong. Yeah, it's horrible, right?
Sorry.
No, don't be. Right? Well, I'm freaking you out.
No, you're not freaking me out. It's just that I've done so many embodiment practices that when something kind of is a bit of a negative thing, my body reacts to that. And I'm just releasing the stress that, just hearing and having that experience of yours, and kind of feeling your pain with that because you clearly... you didn't like it in the end, and it was damaging to you. So it was. I just needed to release that.
It is damaging because it shows its head in real life as well. It shows up. Yeah. The way you treat women, you kind of you can pinpoint it, you can locate it. So I learned that when I was young, and I learned it from this pornography that I was watching, and a lot of it is quite abusive on there. Women are treated like shit in most pornography,
and it goes into minors as well.
Sure. Well, all sorts of horrible things. All sorts. It leads to terrible... This is what I mean. I think there's something very wrong with pornography. And I know it's a problem because I know a lot of people who've tried to stop that can't. That's when you're addicted to something. If you can't stop, And it gets a hold of a lot of guys, I don't think it's healthy. For sure.
And also lots of women do, and there's that ladette culture.
I don't think it's a bigger problem for women.
No, it's not that big, but it's affecting women on that side as well, where they think it's normal. So, okay, I want that man, I go and fuck that man, then I want that man and that man. So it's kind of having that similar sort of, it's like it spreads, without you even noticing to all parts of the society. And how do you then show up in the world if you have that kind of energy and that kind of conditioning that you can treat women like that? Or children like that? What kind of energy do you bring in any table? What you're emitting, what you're transmitting to other people with your values and attitudes. So it's, you know, if you, again, going back, you need to heal yourself
Sure.
to be able to then show up with integrity, with love and consciousness in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I celebrate you with this podcast.
Yeah, I think the danger lies in when it becomes normal. So when the masses are watching tons of pornography,
And
it feels more accepted. It's like, I can't remember what the theory is called, but if you're involved in a riot, for example, and you're rioting with 10,000 other people, what you're doing doesn't feel that wrong. You know, you're smashing windows, you're fighting for something.
Yeah.
You would never behave like that on your own. You would never do a one-man riot going smack.
Yeah.
But when it's the masses that are doing it, so if everyone's watching porn, it can't be that bad because, you know, everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's when we get ourselves into real bother, and that's where society and cultural shift is needed.
Yeah.
But I think if I had my way, which I'm never going to, I would ban it from the internet. But then you could argue, well, people are going to discover it somehow.
But it's the same with prostitution, you know.
Drugs as well. Do you legalise?
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you know, and I would say to anybody, you know, to your listeners who might be identifying what you were just saying, is that, you know, have a lot of compassion to yourself and, you know, understand that it comes from somewhere else. It's not part of you. And if you feel that you need that fix, you know, to have, you know, it's because you might not want to feel something that is too painful, and it is a bit of an escapism. It is like, you know, you are trying to get those endorphins because you're feeling not that good about yourself, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or there's trauma, or there's some other feeling that, you know, you feel angry or you feel sad or disappointed or whatever. It's to replace that with, it's like nature, your human body doesn't care, you know, about whether you're happy or not. You know, it's quite instantaneous. You know, if you start conditioning yourself that this is what your body wants, you know, it's difficult to stop unless you bring that awareness and consciousness that actually this is not good for me, not good for my partner, not good for my family, not the society. So where does the buck stop? Who needs to stop first? Who has that integrity that, okay, let's do a deal with myself. If I were to watch porn, you know, 5 times a day, you know, I've worked with guys who've done that, you know, and they tell me that it's actually taken the freedom. They first thought that this is my liberty, I can watch whatever I want, but then they realize that it's taken over their life. You know, they might be having a dinner with their family, you know, like if you're a young bloke, you go back home, you're having a Sunday roast or whatever, and all of a sudden you feel, no, okay, somebody pinged on Tinder, you know, I'm going to go and fuck her now, you know, sorry, I need to go. Or, you know, the impulse, or you go to the toilet and, you know, it's just something that takes over your freedom, and you can't actually have quality time with your parents or with your partner or with the mates, and it becomes that kind of locker room talk and all that kind of, you know, oh, what did you watch, you know, kind of, you know.
Well, I think people got exposed during COVID a lot, didn't they? Because obviously everything was done on Zoom, and there was that guy, I think, in council in the government that was caught watching pornography in the House of Commons, I think.
Yeah.
And you're like you say, I think it becomes a problem when the porn takes control of you, or
it's
the
an
phone.
Addiction, same as, you know, addiction. Substance abuse. It's the same as you know, if you're a shopaholic, you know, if you have to run every day, like, you know, 20k, 50k a day, you know, it's just something that, and I would ask yourself, you know, what is the feeling that I don't want to feel that makes me to do this?
Okay.
And then go towards that pain and start healing that pain. And maybe have a kind of a practical thing. Okay, only 50% of time I masturbate, I use porn, and 50% of the time I'm actually tuning into my body to feel what feels nice and good and nourishing and loving, and, you know. Yeah,
because it destroys your imagination as well. You don't need to imagine or sit there and be curious anymore, because you can just have it accessible to you on the screen.
And your senses. You're not sensitive.
Sure.
You're numbing yourself.
Yeah.
Nothing feels anymore. And as you said, you need to kind of up the level. It's the same like with substance abuse.
Sure.
You need more and more and more,
Yeah.
because the old dose doesn't anymore work.
Yeah.
So that is the self-healing work that you need to start thinking if you want to change anything. Start from yourself.
Here's a question for you then. So single guys that aren't having sex, where can they put their sexual energy? How can they deal with that if they're not in a relationship and maybe they don't want to be sleeping around such? Like, what can they do with that energy, that natural male energy that they've got? Like, how do they satisfy themselves if they're single?
There's nothing wrong with masturbating. That you can. I think every woman and a man needs to have a self-pleasure practice, even if you are in a relationship. I think it's very important to have your own time and then a partner time. There's nothing wrong with that. And but the thing is that, how do you do it? How can you use the 7 holistic sex tools to help yourself to actually become spiritually, emotionally, consciously better person in that sense? That you can use the sexual energy for your own self, but also for the world. So it's energy. You can work with that. Your sexual energy is obviously a creative energy because we create children. And then, in the old, you've heard about muse, like any painter or a musician in the olden days, they used to have, women there, and they used to, have sex with them or not have, just as an inspiration, they would be their muses. So sex has always been very important for creativity. And we know more about men because they've written, biographies of them. But I bet, there's lots of Anais Nin, there's lots of people in the feminine side that have done the same, and they've used the sexual energy into something beautiful, created something else, not just not reproductive, but also creative outputs in the world.
Okay.
And then it's also a spiritual energy. So you can actually get enlightened through sex, which I think is really cool.
It's very cool. I think we should offer some practical advice if we can. Do you? How should someone go about starting to have a better sexual relationship with their partner then? So let's just say they find themselves in the position that you mentioned, in a sexless relationship. How does one go about trying to fix that?
First of all, I want to send so much love and compassion been there. So that is a heartbreaking place to be. Yeah. And if you still want to rescue your relationship, I think it's time to get quite vulnerable. Is
the heartbreak in feeling unwanted then? Or is it not being able to give love?
It's more than that. It's also giving up on your future, with that person potentially, your mutual dreams, and there's lots of beautiful communication practices. There's lots of, in Tantra you can have, even before you go into physical side, you can do eye casing. You can look into each other's eyes, and that's a vulnerable thing. Somebody just said not long ago to me that I can't look at my partner in the eye when we're having sex. It's too vulnerable. Wow. It's too intimate. I can't do that.
Well, check this out.
And that is the soul.
Yes.
That's the portal to your soul.
It's the eye to the soul. Yeah. It's the window to the soul, right? There was a man's group. There was a guy that ran a very successful men's group, and he had the guys doing this with each other. And he said he'd never felt so uncomfortable when he had to look another man in the eyes.
Yeah.
They made them do that. They reckon it's the deepest connection you can make with someone. Like you say, they call it the window of the soul.
And you can extend that. So basically what you can do, and you could just do this for 2 minutes a day with your partner. You could just, sit down and decide, we're doing a tantric practice here. So, which doesn't involve any nudity or any sex. So you would just look into each other's eyes.
That's amazing.
And it makes you laugh at first and makes you feel silly.
I think that'd be good. I can tell straight away without even doing it. That'd be amazing.
And that's okay, if you feel silly. I mean, there's a protective part of you that doesn't want you to be vulnerable, and that's really vulnerable. To actually all of a sudden you feel, that guy is actually seeing me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you can just put your right hand on the other's heart, and then when the other one's hand is on your heart, you can put your hand on top of that heart. So you kind of create an infinity loop of 8. And what you then start doing is that you start breathing together, and it needs to be quite not kind of breathing. We're not doing porn here, but actually that kind of sexy Darth Vader sound, where you're actually constricting the windpipes. It comes from yoga pranayama. So it's called oceanic sound. So basically how it happens is that you breathe in, and you can, if you can't hear the other one's breathing, you need to really try to concentrate on that area. And you just keep doing that for 2 minutes. And when the other one is breathing, towards you, you breathe in and you take their love and energy, that they're giving to you. And when you breathe out, you're giving that back to them, and you're just doing that in infinity 8.
So would this count, like when you talk about tantric sex, is this part of... Yeah. That sounds pretty amazing, by the way.
This is one of the most juiciest thing. And I tell you why. Going back to porn, well,
you wouldn't see that in porn, would you?
How quickly, and if you Google tantric porn, or tantra in any porn site, you get somebody massaging somebody a lot, and it's usually a scene where somebody comes to a very innocent massage, and all of a sudden you have a cock in your mouth. I mean, it's just kind of, what's going on? It shouldn't be an abusive situation. But anyway, so what happens in porn is that, first of all, women don't come that quickly. Average man, when they have a ejaculation, is 2.5 minutes. Some can go 10 to 20 minutes, even 30 minutes, but it's often very much about control or edging. So you kind of go to the peak, then you have to come off. And so it's quite disruptive for a woman, and woman would feel the energy that you are controlling. You're not focused on them.
Right.
And you're not focusing on co-creation there. And women, I don't know if you've seen, I can't remember what it's called. Maggie Gyllenhaal is in that. It's like in the 19th century. Vibrator was invented in England. And she's a daughter of a doctor who pleasures women. Just basically,
I love how you're doing the finger action.
No, well, that's yeah. So basically, average time that women orgasm is 45 minutes. So what do you think if man comes
2.5
in
minutes?
2.5 minutes,
Yeah.
and women haven't even warmed up? Why do women fake? It's not just about porn. It's just also, I don't want him to feel bad, But you don't orgasm in 2.5 minutes. It's a very rare woman who can do that, honestly, and lots of women then start feeling they shut their yin part, which is their pussy, as we discussed earlier. However, direct flight you have there, she will just close the gates, and then she will also close her heart, and that's when the sexless marriage starts. And it's not anybody's fault. There's no criticism here. There's no judgment here. It's just that we need to understand and have knowledge. We need to educate ourselves and then start practicing. Because when we do something new, it doesn't feel right because we've been, doing it a particular way. So how long do you think foreplay should last?
Well, if you're saying the average time for a woman to orgasm is 45 minutes, longer than that.
As long as you can.
Yeah.
It could be even from the previous intercourse.
Because the gap between 2.5 minutes of a man having an orgasm versus a woman that's huge. It's 42.5 minutes difference. And I think a lot of men will get into the zone of they stress more about coming that early than they do about having good sex.
And there are ways to actually, practice differently. And that's why I'm so passionate about working with men, because that will help women as well.
Share that information then, because that will be practical for men. How can a man stop coming so early?
Well, as I said, there are 7 holistic sex tools that I've kind of come up with, from different sources. And I think one of the things is breathing. Mm-hmm. Let's start first. After you've done that infinity, the 8 practice, or I need to come up with a name for it.
By the way, when you say 2.5 minutes,
it's an average.
You're talking about from the start of intercourse.
It's no,
not from the start of sex.
I would say it's penetration time.
So
yeah,
from
penetration time. But again, lots of men think that little bit of this, and then penetration, and it doesn't work like that. Women don't get turned on like that. You first need to, because the energy pole in the genitalia of women is yin. She needs to feel safe. She needs to be loved and worshipped. And one of the things you can just do is to put your hand, you just say, we don't need to have a goal-oriented sex. I don't need to come. I'm here for you. You don't need to come. You can just allow her to lie on her back and put your hand on her lower belly and just stay there. And she closes her eyes. And that can be, and once she starts, and I said to you, women are forces of nature. Anything can come up. There can be so much emotion there. Just you holding your hand on a lower belly for like half an hour, and she can cry, she can giggle, she can scream, she can just, she can get so wet. It's just you holding that space and saying, I'm here, I'm your king and you're the queen. You can just do whatever you like and you're safe with me and I love you. And just that can be such a turn on that you have all the time. Even if you did it once a month, everybody can have a half a day of hobby sex once a month.
Sure, that's doable.
And you don't go directly there. You always do slower. Whatever you think, you need to go slower and slower and slower. And you need to open her heart first so that she can feel the love, she can feel the acceptance. She doesn't need to think about how she looks or sounds.
So we're talking about love here, aren't we? What about people that are just having sex?
You can still have tantric sex with strangers.
But it takes
there
two,
are
right?
tantric retreats all over the world.
Yeah, I'm thinking just of like the people that want to hook up and have casual sex. Because you start doing that shit to someone that like doesn't understand or know it or want it.
Well, always have to have consent, for goodness sake.
But what I mean is the understanding of what you're doing there. It sounds like a practice between two people is what I mean.
It is, but
Yeah.
It's also that somebody can initiate it. It doesn't have to be...
Yeah. It sounds more like it would be encompassed in a loving relationship to me.
Yeah, but you can also love people, as they are, whoever they are. I'm not, saying that, yes, just, do sex with strangers. I'm not advocating that, but it does happen.
Yeah, but I can just imagine
people can even have, yeah. So there are, as I said, there are places where people can have that kind of experience with others.
It just sounds like it would form a stronger bond than normal
Well, it's
sex.
like you said, earlier on that, there was this experiment or this place where men were looking into each other's eyes and it was so vulnerable.
Yeah.
That is already tantra in a way, and it doesn't matter, the whole gender just dissolves because you're just two consciousness there looking into each other's souls.
Yeah.
And just seeing that actually we are the same, we're the one.
Yeah.
There isn't any, all the fears, it just dissipates.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I don't know what you think, fellas, to get some feedback on what you're saying, because to me it sounds beautiful what you're saying.
I'd love to hear feedback, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'd absolutely love to be here.
Most guys would be like, didn't
questions.
even know that exists. Like, seriously,
answer questions and to if there was a a way to kind of and I don't know if I have the answers, but I've done this I've been so interested in this and studied got certifications in men's sexuality and tantric sex, and obviously I've worked with women for years, so it's just something that I find is unduly made dirty, sinful, bad, suppressed, something that's negative.
Yeah. And what's interesting, the first half an hour was really uncomfortable for me, but once you get past that stage and you just start talking about it, it no longer feels like a big deal. So I think the start.
No, I can feel a lot of consciousness and actually a lot of love here.
Yeah.
That there is comfortableness, there is that empowerment, and there is that kind of ease.
Sure. I just don't think men know what to do with it sometimes. All that like you say, that confusion between warrior, lover, magician, king. It's like, where do I put
all
this?
those archetypes?
All those archetypes. Yeah, I mean that's where my tattoos have come from. They're the 4 archetypes.
Wow.
Yeah, because they interest me. It's I can see how that puzzle fits in my own life. I can see where things are good if those things are balanced.
Yeah.
If they're out of sync, if the lover's not working properly and the warrior takes over and I'm just fighting and there's not enough love, that doesn't serve me well.
That's beautiful.
So it's trying to balance those things out. So
and you're bringing that consciousness into it, and even and I'd like to say this, that when a man is in his full masculinity in a sex situation, but brings love and consciousness to it, so you have all the 3 tantians, like in Taoistic tantra. There's the lower belly, which is your genital sexual energy, your heart space, which is your love and compassion, and then your consciousness in your third eye. And you bring all those into alignment, and you are fully present in love-making situation, and you completely are devoted to that partner. in that situation. You're not thinking in your mind, fantasizing something else you've seen in porn or somebody else, or you're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about, oh, you need to go and watch football or whatever. You're 100% there present. So presence is another holistic sex tool. It's really being present with that person. Stopping
watching pornography was the best thing that did to help with being present during sex.
Yeah.
After a while that changed. So when I was having sex with someone, I was just having sex with them.
And what do you do then? Where if you start going, because lots of men I've noticed go into their heads. They start thinking, am I going to, as you said earlier, am I going to last? Am I going to be able to satisfy this one? How can I be a better
that's what the fear
lover?
is, by the way. You just want to satisfy the woman that you love.
Exactly. You want to be the best lover for her, for goodness sake, of course.
Yeah, you want to be a stud, man. You want to do a good job.
Yeah, and it's nothing to do with size. It's nothing to do with, physical appearance, because basically you can just be anything, to that person.
Yeah.
So what made you, I'm curious, what helped you to be present with that lovemaking?
The stopping of pornography was the main one.
Yeah.
And only having sex with people that I was in love with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a different game then. It's
what can I invite you to share what happened in your body, and how did you, obviously, you could still, your nervous system could kick in, and you could in your mind's eye start seeing scenes on porn. So how were you able to concentrate on her?
I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that. I was just so into it.
Yeah.
Because it was the right person in front of me.
Yeah. So there was so much love and devotion to her pleasure.
Yeah, I didn't want to make love to anyone else.
Yeah.
So I know that's when I'm with the right... I think that's when I know when I'm with the right person, yeah.
Yeah.
It's... Everything else just goes away in life. It's the two of you at that point.
Yeah.
And that's all that exists. And that's a very nice place to be.
Yeah.
You don't think about anything else, and you're completely present.
And if in the relationship, just going back to the sexless situation, so if in the beginning you've had sparkle, you can always rekindle that. You just need to know how. You just need to be vulnerable again, because again, there are so many shadow parts within us, not just the archetypes, but also the shadow parts that really need to protect you.
Yeah.
And they're not interested whether you're happy or blissful or ecstatic or empowered or liberated. They just want to keep you safe. And somewhere down the line, it started to feel unsafe to be so vulnerable with a lover or with a partner. And you started shutting down for a reason or another. And that's the time to really have compassion to that part of yourself that really wants to keep you safe. And, it's better to just play a game, or better to go and have a beer with the mates in the pub, or watch sport or do sport or whatever, or even watch porn. But, so the compassion is one, don't be hard on yourself. Don't be critical. And then just learn to become more vulnerable, and just that eye gazing without needing to have words is really vulnerable to start with, but then it becomes easier and easier, and it becomes really quite fun and nourishing and loving and a turn on.
I wouldn't say there's any scarcity in that. I think that sounds exciting. But for me, that's probably one of the reasons why one night stands are just not the thing that I would enjoy now, because I wouldn't have that I wouldn't do that with someone that was a one night. I don't think I would. It's not as special to me. I think sex gets better over time with someone. In fact, I don't really like sex at first. I think I find it a little bit uncomfortable at first with someone new.
That's good, because there's lots of ideas, especially in the Tinderdom, that people think that you need to have sex on a first date.
No,
it's just...
No, I'm old school. I love old traditional dating.
Unhelpful. It's unhelpful for pleasure. It's unhelpful for having that connection and intimacy. I mean, it can be a quick fix, just like porn.
Sure,
but it doesn't give nourishment. It doesn't give you, that sense of empowerment and kind of,
I remember dating a girl called Cheryl when I was young, and it was traditional. The first date, I went and picked her up. You don't hear of this happening anymore. We went out for a drink, and then I dropped her home. And then the second date we went out for drinks and food. And then the third date was cinema. Do you know what I mean? There was a order to it, and every date got more exciting because we started to get to know each other more and more and more. And it was old school. It was like I remember telling her dad that I'd have her home by a certain time, and it was really traditional, and it was really nice.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's
no, I like it, and I prefer that now.
Her pussy as well, because you're actually giving her time. Women need more time because of that polar, opposite polar energy in the magnetic field. So same way as you might need a little bit more time with your heart and your emotions. You need to really. You might your cock might want to know where it wants to go. But you might want to have actually, for your heart more kind of wooing and really being sure that you love her,
or at least feels half safe in her company. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it is what it is, but I think if there are any younger Tinder users here or older as well, I think there's that pressure that you don't need to go that way, and I think lots of people would actually appreciate that if there wasn't that pressure and you could actually have fun and woo a bit,
Sure.
And again, with women, because of the heart space is the yang energy, so you can open the heart space very quickly for women, through breast massage, and you can just, I don't know, in the films you can see in the olden days, people used to go to the cinema in the back seat, and there would be some fondling of the breasts for quite a while, less than watching the film kind of thing, and that actually is quite helpful, because that is a way to open women's yin energy pole in the genitalia as well. But you just need to know how, and all women are different. They're different at different times of the month, their breasts, and it's just something, it's like an adventure. It's like an exploration, giving you a mission there.
It is. That's why we love women. It's you
never know where that force of energy and emotion comes from.
No. That was a crazy conversation.
Are we wrapping up already?
We don't have to.
Oh, for goodness.
We've done an hour. Do you know how long we've done?
No.
An hour and 40.
You're joking.
No.
I loved this.
It's been.
There's so many things.
Yeah, I've never spoken to anybody like this before, let alone on a fucking podcast.
How many listeners do you have?
Well, we've had just over 30,000 downloads now.
Right.
So,
gosh.
Yeah, but
I might have toned down my...
No, look, I always want people to be themselves on here. Don't come on here and just say it how it is, please. That's, and if people don't like it, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult conversation for many people, as you experienced as well in your body. You felt uncomfortable.
The first 30 minutes, I mean, you could see my skin was heating up. I was embarrassed.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's one. You took me off guard a little bit, and two,
about the clitoris.
Yeah. Probably scared me with those stats.
Do you believe that men actually think about sex 7 times a minute?
Oh, I don't think about. I ain't got time to think about sex.
Exactly. I mean,
but I also don't think about how many nerve endings the clitoris has either.
No, but it just shows that there's lots of myths. Like men all the time think about sex, and I don't think that's true. I mean, that would be 56,000 times a week.
Depends where you are as well. If you're in an environment where there's women all around you, perhaps. Yeah,
but if then if the idea is that you talk about what you lack, or think about what you lack, so if that is true, surely then a man would like to know how to have more sex, how to keep his penis inside a vagina longer and more often.
Well, I think
that's why I think Tantra is going to become mainstream, just like yoga and meditation, because we're so fed up with porn. If you're really honest with yourself, it doesn't satisfy for longer term. It's a quick fix.
Yeah, I think after a lot of men feel the guilt and the shame.
Yeah,
I know they do.
And shame and guilt is one of the actually barriers for proper satisfying sex life.
I mean, if I say to you, Anne, I'm never going to go and watch porn again, and I'll go home and watch porn tonight, there's shame.
I don't want to shame people on that, but it's because it's not helpful. But shame and guilt is definitely one. Numbness is another one, because you're not you just kind of you're not sensitive anymore. You've just gone too fast, too often. It doesn't satisfy, and then lack of education.
Well, I think this is how most men would approach porn. They would pick a video that they like and try and masturbate as quickly as they fucking can.
Yeah.
And then it's done. They feel better. Move on. Go and do another task.
Yeah.
It's become that. It's just become something people do, I think. Yeah.
And the way to have what you want, which is more sex and more satisfying sex, is actually learn the anatomy of female pleasure.
Imagine being one of those guys who knew what you're talking about. He would be like a god in our world. Like, can you imagine meeting a guy and him like doing all the things you've spoken about? You'd be
As
like,
I said, women are up leveling themselves.
I know,
They
I'm
are
gonna have
becoming
to go
goddesses. So you need to gear up.
no,
You know.
I think that little bit of scarcity is not a bad thing. If you know that women want to be pleasured and they want that up leveling of man, I think you can do one of two things. You can go and hide and say, I'm not doing that, or you can go and upskill in any area of life. You can go and learn.
It is mastery. It's self-mastery. It's learning, to be conscious with yourself and then conscious with the other person.
The good thing about sex is, though, you can have fun whilst you get better at it.
Yeah.
If you're saying you have to practice having sex, I'm like,
sex.
It's a good thing, right? It's not like, it's not like a torturous act. It's like, okay. And that's quite an exciting part.
No. Hang on. There's so much trauma, both in men bodies and female bodies, and especially non-binary bodies. So trauma is completely another topic. Sexual trauma that it might not be a one incident, but it could be collective from the society. So there's so much that we actually have to, proceed cautiously and with love and compassion and slowness.
Sure. Yeah, we didn't even get
and
into
healing.
the non-binary topic either.
No.
There's lots to discuss. This sex topic's quite a broad collection of things that we could delve into. Well, that was fascinating. How do you feel after discussing all that? Did you enjoy?
I love talking about sex.
Yeah, I can tell. You have a past life. Just before we finish, right?
Past life.
You said something like that in a past life. I'm guessing, is this a reality? This deputy leader of the Finnish Green Party?
Oh.
Or is this a?
Yeah.
7 sheep, 10 turkeys, 3 dogs, 3 kids, and 1 ex-husband. Is that reality?
That was reality.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
that was a kind of a 10 years ago, and all of
Finnish
that
Green
caused,
Party.
Yeah.
So you were a politician.
Yeah.
You don't speak like a normal politician, I gotta say.
Well, I never was an ordinary politician anyway. I wasn't interested in my own. I just wanted people to save the planet.
Yeah.
And I feel that feminine energy is the earth energy, and the masculine energy is the consciousness. And, when you have those two forces, the nature, the feminine coming from the earth and the masculine, the consciousness coming into your heart space. I'm talking about the one person here, and not necessarily as a relationship thing.
Yeah.
That's when divine marriage happens and you become whole. And I think we need to really find that integration within ourselves. But that's also, when we can do that, I believe that the planet gets healed as well. I don't like climate change. I don't like lack of biodiversity. I want this planet to be there for my kids and their kids.
Sure.
It's that kind of way. We're all interconnected.
So I'm off to Sweden in March. I've done Iceland, I've done Norway, and next on my list is Helsinki.
Great.
So I'll be experiencing
it's a cool
Finland.
City.
Yeah, I don't know where else you would recommend to go, but
Eastern Lake District.
Okay.
Yeah, Koli.
Yeah.
K-O-L-I.
I'm looking
if
forward
you like hiking, and
I do.
It's not mountainous, but it's hilly.
Yeah, and I want to get some cold water dives in, some therapy.
Well, don't go in the summer.
No.
Because waters are like 22
really?
degrees. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm looking more like 6 to 8 degrees is what I'm after.
Yeah, any swimming pool in Finland.
Wicked.
They have cool plunge pools.
Yes. Yeah, that's still Iceland.
And in Helsinki you have a sea pool as well in front of the presidential palace.
Cool.
You can go and have a sauna and swim in a pool.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. That was education. You opened my eyes to the concept of tantric sex.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you. I'm going to wrap this up because I need the loo now, but thank you.
Right. Thank you.
And that was